Hi, this is in-person group 2. I'll be presenting our first visualization, which addresses whether single-year yield measurements are reliable, or whether the 3-year mean would be more appropriate as a reference. To explore this, we assigned the 60 sites into high, moderate, and low yield groups based on their yield in each specific year. In this Sankey diagram, each column represents a year, and within each column, the three nodes represent the high, moderate, and low yield groups from top to bottom. The ribbons flowing between columns show how sites transition between yield groups across the years. For example, how sites in the high group in 2017 are distributed across the three groups in 2018. The ribbon width represents the number of sites following each transition path, and ribbon color represents each site's 3-year mean yield group. Hovering over nodes and ribbons reveals detailed counts and flow information. Elena can also use this region filter in the left to compare transition patterns between good and go sites separately. Below the chart, a summary table and two drop-downs allow Elena to retrieve exact site IDs either by consistency group or by a specific transition path. The high degree of ribbon crossing suggests single-year measurements are unreliable, supporting the use of the 3-year means as a more stable reference for Elena's future studies.
For the second implementation, we have the relationship with the biodiversity, or we can say the plant population distribution with the coffee yield. And this was recorded across 60 sites in the Ethiopian owl forest, with the yield was recorded over 3 years. The graph has two main parts on the left side. Each row here represents one site individually, and each tree represents one plant recorded, with the color greens representing the woody vascular plant. The orange color represents herbaceous type, and the blue one represents the biophyte type. And on the right side, we have the coffee yield with one pink dot representing one site's yield. And here we also added a blue line, which represent the mean yield of all the dots that are here. And we also added some small numbers so that the user don't have to estimate or count. And here on the interactivity board, we can choose between just the average yield of all 3 years, or each year individually, or we can choose to show the site in either all 60 sites or in just one specific group of yield. And from here, we concluded that there is a slight pattern between the woody dominance and the yield. The more woody plants there are, the less copy yield it is. But however, this is not enough to conclude any specific relationship between the yield and the biodiversity. So we would advise the user to take into account more factors.
To the third and final visualization, which helps the user, Elena, understand which yield variable is the most appropriate to measure, how strongly the available yield measures agree with one another, and finally, which management variables should be prioritized. To do so, we built a composite visualization that helps the user explore the relationship between any variables they would like to. The main view is an interactive bubble chart where the bubbles represent the 60 sites. The user has full control over what is being plotted. So be it the x-axis, y-axis, or the bubble size. That include the yield management variables or the richness variables, like biodiversity variables. The year filter controls the yield. So the user can choose an individual year or the mean of the 3 years. We also realized that the year 2019 misses 2 sites, which is why when the user clicks on it, a warning message appears to warn them about it. Then we also have a filter site region. In addition to that, site choices are also color-coded. We also have an interactive feature where if you hover over any bubble, it actually brings up an info box with the full details for that specific site. So the user can read precise numbers without having to leave the chart. And then finally, we also added a pie chart that shows the plant group composition for any chosen site. The user just has to select a site from this drop down, and the pie automatically updates to that site's specific composition.